Good evening. I would like to call to order the January 14th regular board meeting for Pullman School District. We will begin, as we do with every meeting, with a Pledge of Allegiance led by Patrick Dinges.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Our first action is an approval of the agenda tonight. Superintendent Maxwell, are there any changes to tonight's agenda?
There are no changes to tonight's agenda.
I move approval of the agenda as presented.
I will second.
It's been moved and seconded, but that we approve the agenda as presented. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No? Okay. The agenda is now approved. Next, we move on to reports, correspondence, and program, and we begin with our PHS ASB report. So I'd like to invite to the podium Patrick again.
Hello. Pullman High ASB had its first meeting of the new term of ASB on June 12th? Last Friday, June 9th. June 9th. We approved several motions, including fundraising applications, and we began looking to the summer, hoping to maybe meet a few times during the summer to make sure that we're all headed in the right direction. And we began planning the back-to-school block party for next year.
Yeah. Okay.
Awesome. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. We look forward to your visits all next year. Okay. All right. Moving right along, we have board reports. I'll begin down at the end with Director Weed.
Okay. First of all, congratulations to all of our graduates. I thought graduation on Saturday was awesome, except they were a little light, harassing Eric. They didn't.
You thought they were a little reserved?
Yes, I did too. You know, Joe really brought out the best in them when they were doing things. But Eric, maybe it was just because he was the new guy. But anyway, hopefully next year they'll get back at it full force. Just what everybody wants to hear. But I like it that they get to celebrate that way. And then they calm down when it was Bob's turn to talk. They actually listened to you, looked like.
I didn't have much to say. So.
That's good. So you kept them while you could. All right, also, I've been meeting with a couple of concerned parents, and we're working on setting up a key community communicator committee that would be just maybe 10 or 12 parents that we try and have a set meeting every month for people to come in and ask questions and want to know. They would lead the whole thing, and I would just be there as sort of the ombudsman and the one to take any concerns to the district if I felt they needed to, or if I, by any chance, could come up with an answer, I could help them out. But it's just a way to try and get everybody, if they have concerns, instead of talking to all their friends about it and working up a frenzy, they can come to a meeting and find out really if what they're hearing is true, and if it is true, what we're going to do about it, and that sort of thing. So these young ladies, Jill Elbracht, I think, and Megan Brannon are amazing. And I'm just really excited about them being involved in that sort of thing. And so I'm just sort of watching them do all the work. It's kind of fun for a change to do that. And I think that's my report. All right, thank you.
Thank you. Director Everman.
Just to endorse what Susan said about the graduation, I think it went very well. We were done in an hour and a half, which is, that's amazing. Yeah.
Now nobody's going to know who I am.
And as part of the listening tour, I think another factor is constituents got to meet the school board more one-on-one. And so I think there's a lot more comfort level in terms of them contacting individual school board members. Although we say we're available to meet, if they don't really know you, there's some hesitancy. So I've just noticed as our leadership and our listening tours have kind of gotten more and more so, people are just more comfortable communicating. So I think that was a positive thing out of the last few months. That's all I have.
All right, thank you. Director Kinzer?
As we know, school is winding down. We're in our final week, but on Monday night I did have the opportunity to attend the fourth graders at Sunnyside, their classroom city family night.
Oh, neat.
And it was very interesting. That was the first one I'd gone to, and we had fourth graders making all kinds of things to sell. And if you took in a can of something for the food bank, they would give you 20 city dollars, and you could go around and buy different things. And they had everything from crunchy slime to homemade Play-Doh. They even had custom drawings they would make. I requested a tractor drawing, and that gentleman turned it out in about 5 minutes, and it was John Deere, and he actually spelled the deer on John Deere correctly, because it's spelled D-E-E-R-E. And so they did very well, and so I think everybody had a good time, and there were a lot of families there, and the classrooms were full. So that concludes my report this evening.
Very nice. And this could have gone in board member mail, but instead we received a late arriving party in fifth grade camp this year from some fifth graders for you to examine. So. Okay, next we have our superintendent's report. Superintendent Maxwell?
Thank you. So I'll have to agree, it was quite a week last week with the awards ceremony at the high school Tuesday night, the Barclays Wednesday night, and the talent show Thursday night, I believe, and then followed by graduation. So it was quite a busy week and just phenomenal. So a lot of talent, and it was a great week. So I really appreciate that. The construction update, I've asked Joe Thornton to give an update, as I was unable to attend the latest updates for Kamiak, and Joe's going to fill us in.
Good evening. Yesterday we had a on-site pre-bid meeting with the architect and our construction management group and any contractors that were interested in attending. There were several suppliers that were there and subcontractors. There were 4 general contractors on site to ask questions. There are at least 2 other general contractors that have requested sets of plans, and probably 1 other general contractor that's trying to do it stealth. Sometimes contractors don't want to know that they're bidding a project. They want to kind of do it, fly under the radar. So Design West is thinking that there's possible, reading the tea leaves, there's possibility of 6 to 7 contractors putting in a bid for Kamiak, and competition is good in something like this. So the more we get, the better, and we'll know this next Thursday when we open bids, 22nd.
Right, so we'll bring you those at the next board meeting. So.
Exciting.
Yeah, thank you, Joe. Next, before we invite up our distinguished guests who are going to give us their update on the PAF grants that they received, just to let you know, the Pullman Education Foundation awarded $7,453 in teacher grants at Franklin, Jefferson, Sunnyside, LMS, PHS, and one of those also went to all the libraries as well. So we're talking 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 22 teachers in total. So again, phenomenal, and just a variety, and we're going to give you a chance to hear 2 of those samples. So whoever would like to go first, Jill or Marla.
Oh, sure, I'm not shy. Hi, I'm Jill Brockmeyer. I teach first grade now at Jefferson, and I've been a lucky recipient of the PF grant since the beginning of it on many different grade at many different grade levels, and so I'm very appreciative. And as I always say, this community of Pullman supports their teachers, and I am appreciative of that. This year, I wrote a grant to get some science texts for my classroom to meet the next generation science standards. And I'm very grateful because so far this is all that's been purchased for us from the PEF. And it was a set from Scholastics that targeted each standard, came with a nice study guide if you needed to use that. I, of course, don't look at that too much, but nice study guide to meet all the first grade standards. And so when I read those to the kids, it either starts our lessons or accumulates our lessons, or in between, it helps add more information to our lessons. So I just brought some tonight because it's a big package. But in first grade, we do a lot with, we are supposed to teach sound and light waves. So there were some great books on sound and light. And then we are supposed to teach what the movements in the sky. So that's what I'm just going to show you tonight. There's my sound. The sun and the moon, and what makes seasons. There's a lot with STEM. And even though we don't talk much about planes, we do talk about energy and forces. So, and of course, with Rena Minks and I do a big unit from our association with Pittsco with planes and flight and rockets. And so that was nice to add those books to our collection. And then a lot with animal traits and how humans look at animal traits to invent from. So how can we mimic animal traits to invent things? And so there was a whole bunch on that. So I'm very appreciative for that. I was also able to buy, but come to find out they didn't fund that, so Craig ended up reimbursing the PEF for that, was a site called A to E Science, A to Z, guess it doesn't go to E, A to Z Science, which is a science subscription that you can get where you can help to pinpoint kids' grade levels, and you can assign assignments of things to read, and then they take assessments on that. And so we were able to read about light, forces and motion, and sound waves, and I could differentiate. So it could be K2 high, K2 middle, K2 low, and even though that wasn't approved, I ended up getting it anyway, and Craig reimbursed. And that is an incredible site because kids are expected to, in the ELA standards, to be able to read nonfiction texts, to report on those with factual information, so you're able to integrate those groups of standards together. And as you know, we don't have a lot of those materials in our classrooms purchased for us. So to have that site was incredible, and I would hope that I'm somehow able to get that again, either through the district or another grant that I write. But again, I just want to close up in saying I'm very appreciative to this Pullman community. They step up for us teachers every day when they know our needs, and the PEF Foundation is an excellent organization that I depend on year to year to help me with my student learning needs. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, I'm Marla Haugen, and I teach life science at Lincoln Middle School, and I also really appreciate the PEF. Last year was the first year I taught at the middle school, and they bought an incubator for us. So last year I taught physical science, so we were able to use that incubator as a bit of a model, and the kids made their own incubators and actually got them to hatch eggs. And then this year when I moved to life science, got to take the incubator with me and got to see, I think Roberta was in there in the classroom even when we had the chicks in there, so that was pretty fun. This year I applied for and got got a $500 grant to expand the outdoor learning lab that we have just right outside the classroom door at Lincoln Middle School. Joe Astorino works with the Community Action Center, and he's started a small little garden plot going, and in Whitman County, he's working with lots of schools trying to get them some outdoor learning labs and some gardens to not only get the kids some work experience and some more hands-on experience, but to get them involved with the community and hopefully at some point take the plants that the kids have grown and give them back to the Community Action Center so they can give them to the community. And also Joe has started a culinary club at Lincoln Middle School, and the goal would be for us in the garden to grow some of the plants that the culinary club uses, just to make the whole thing nice and integrated and flow just like that. He also started a composting program, and so we have kids, all of the grade levels take turns kind of manning the compost buckets at lunch, and then he got us a compost thing out there, a bin out there, and so what I used the grant for was to get some forks, some big turning forks to help us turn the compost and then to work it into the soil, and then a class set of tools so that we can go out there and work in the garden as we get it going. It's just like a really small plot right now, and it has a lot of potential. It's right outside our library, so it could do good service as teaching the kids some outdoor learning stuff, but then to make it, a more beautiful place outside the library. And then I'm sure that you know that Aaron Krantz was a math teacher who passed away this spring, and his family has given the middle school some money to do some kind of memorial service or memorial for him. And we've been thinking that a bench out there in the garden area would be a good place to start. So, and then I know that this spring there was information about a bigger PEF grant, I think it was $10,000 even, and I didn't have time to do anything this year with it, but over the summer I kind of want to look into a bigger expansion of the garden and trying to apply that and work with the Community Action Center some more that way, so keeping on going with that. So anyway, thanks again to them because they do awesome work and provide us with stuff that we wouldn't otherwise be able to do with our kids, so thank you.
Thank you.
Right. The next section of the agenda is the visitors section. This part of the agenda is for anyone wishing to speak before the board, either as an individual or a member of a group. Visitors addressing the board will go to the microphone and state their name and address prior to presenting their information. The board will listen and may offer clarification, but will not discuss the topic at this time. The board may consider moving the topic presented to a future meeting date as a discussion item. Please keep your comments civil and respectful and limit your remarks to 3 minutes. And
I think Joe wanted to.
do you both?
Oh, are you speaking?
I'm just listening.
Okay. See, you guys got it lucky tonight, so see? Don't say 3 minutes.
She has a timer.
I know the routine. This is not my first time in front of the board this year, unfortunately.
Thank you, Joe.
Hi, my name's Jill Brockmeyer. I teach first grade at Jefferson School, and I'm here tonight representing myself and my students, both past and present. Many of you know me, know that I'm a pretty passionate person. I'm passionate about teaching. I'm passionate about educating my students. Therefore, at times I speak very passionately, and when I have a concern and I don't give up on the topic, especially when it comes to my students and their learning. I realize that sometimes, because of my passion, I'm not always heard or taken seriously. Please know that along with this passion, I'm a very highly educated teacher and experienced. So I would ask tonight that you hear my concerns. In October of 2013, the Washington State adopted the Next Generation Science Standards. The Pullman School District sent science leaders, which included myself, to the SD 101 office to undergo extensive training to help us to facilitate these new standards and teaching them and training and the implementation of the timeline. If you look at the timeline, you'll see that in 2017 and 18, this implementation will be complete, and all fifth grade students will now be assessed on the NGSS
assessment in the spring. That will be my first class back at first grade, will be in 5th grade next year. As of June of this year, as a district, the Pullman School District has yet to purchase any materials to match these next generation science standards. I would not be here tonight if those standards weren't placed on our report card, and I'm being held accountable to instruct those and teach those. Luckily, there are a lot of teachers out there like myself who have purchased their own materials with their own money, or have supplemented with grants that I brought to you tonight. And at JES, luckily, Craig is used to us seeing our frustration and has stepped up many times to help us out. So many of us have been able to achieve these standards. I can't say that for every classroom or every grade because they might not have the same situation I have. In closing, I've addressed this concern several times with Dr. Maxwell, Dr. Kramer, and I've even talked about it with Mrs. Weed. I am deeply concerned that as a district, we have failed in making sure that teachers have in their classroom the basic education materials needed to do their job effectively. We've let our students down. We can't hold students responsible for knowledge that have been instructed due to no materials provided or training by the Pullman School District. This year, these standards have also been put now on our report card. Like I said, I've asked that the district attach a letter explaining it's an ongoing process, be patient. I've yet to receive any positive feedback on that matter, so that's why I'm here tonight. Of course, let me see. This should not be our financial burden as a teacher. It should be something that new teachers, experienced teachers, step in their classroom and have available their basic education materials. I have ideas how we can make this a quick fix. I've come to you before and said, we have some ideas how we can make it a quick fix before there's a new adoption. And I hope this time you will contact me and we can get started on this because kids are suffering, kids are losing out, and that is our number one goal, to educate the children of Pullman. Thank you.
Thank you. Would anyone like to offer any clarification on that?
Thank you for caring, Jill.
I'll offer some clarification.
Okay.
So I do appreciate Jill's comments. It's been an ongoing process. I know when we started back, Jill did attend with several teachers. Jill also provided some staff development training for the teachers in the district. We did bring down someone from ESD 101. I forget which year that was, but for one of our learning improvement days. So we have purchased some book materials. Again, part of the process, we did have to put on the adoption, science adoption. That committee's been meeting this year. They've been working on it. A lot of the publishers have been behind on putting together materials because they've still been designing the assessments. But it is something that is on our radar, and we'll be happy to talk with Jill to hear some of her ideas. So I appreciate that.
I have some good ideas.
I have no doubt, Jill.
Well, thank you.
Okay.
So
I just think it's important that we start addressing because kids will be assessed next year.
Yeah, and they still don't have the assessment ready yet from what I last
Well,
heard.
and
So-
that's true, but I can only go on. This was the most
Okay,
recent.
I'm going to end that now because we said we weren't going to discuss it.
That's true. Thank you.
You get to clarify, and so
Thank
there
you
we are.
for clarifying.
Okay, yes,
I appreciate that because at least I feel like I've been heard.
definitely.
Thank you.
Okay. Would anyone else like to address the board at this time? Okay. All right, then, we will move on to the consent agenda. To expedite business at a board meeting, the board approves the use of a consent agenda, which includes items considered to be routine in nature. Any item which appears on the consent agenda may be removed from the consent agenda by a member of the board and voted on separately. The remaining items will be voted on by a single motion. Tonight's consent agenda consists of minutes, warrants, personnel report, professional personal services report, budget status report, transfer requests, new PHS club, overnight field trip request, ASB fundraisers, and records destruction.
I move that the consent agenda be approved as presented this evening.
Second.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded that we approve the consent agenda as presented this evening. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No, the consent agenda is approved as presented. Next, we have our action items. The first action item this evening is summer activities, and to present this, we have our Executive Director of Operations, Joe Thornton.
So this is a requirement from our insurance carrier, very logical, I would add, that we inform them of the things that we're going to be doing this summer. These are activities that coaches, for example, weight room, cross-country practice, those types of things, all happening on site. The one thing I'll tell you, we added one more to this, which is wrestling practice. There was kind of some conflicting directions in the stuff that, information that Chris Franklin sent out to coaches. This paperwork says, please send directly to us, clear risk. Chris's email said, please send to him. We had one coach send it. So that's something that's been done every year, which is just wrestling practice in the wrestling room. Any questions?
I do have a question related to, Patrick earlier reported that ASB might meet over the summer. Do we have any liability associated with, I mean, do we even know if they meet on site or?
Not really. That's just, that's not any different than a teacher possibly meeting with a kid to talk about senior project or something like that.
Okay.
It's really the activities that we are interested in. Now, there's a potential that they will be taking an overnight trip to Chewila Peak, and if that's the case, then that will be an overnight trip that does require board approval.
ASB?
Correct, ASB.
Okay.
We'll go to a leadership retreat at Chewila Peak, which is an AWSP, correct? AWSP sponsored conference center.
Okay, all right.
Other questions?
Clarification, Joe, does the summer programs include public use of the district facilities during the summertime or not?
It does not. This is just specifically student activities.
Okay.
Because other users would have their own insurance.
Correct. Other uses would have their own insurance, and we have a different process for that. And those groups have to present a $1 million liability policy, present that to the district so that we know that there's coverage.
Such as the YMCA or someone?
Such as the YMCA, an AAU group, if like they did last year, if Pullman Civic Theater were to use the auditorium, those groups all need to have that insurance policy in place.
Okay, thank you.
And depending upon who they're affiliated with, the insurance policy sometimes costs them next to nothing.
Okay, thank you.
All right. If there are no further questions, I would entertain a motion.
I move approval of the summer activities as presented by Joe.
Second?
All right, it's been moved and seconded that we approve the 2017 summer activities as presented. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No one is opposed, so the summer activities are approved. Our next agenda item is the sports medicine textbook adoption presented by Assistant Superintendent Roberta Kramer.
Good evening. As I presented 2 weeks ago, I shared with you the textbook, the big, fat, thick textbook to use in our sports medicine course, and I would ask for approval of that textbook.
I just had one question, Roberta, in terms of what is the projected timeline on use of this textbook?
In this next school year.
But for how long, what would be the duration? Are we anticipating 4 to 5 years?
Oh, yes, we are. They republish the book regularly, primarily because it's used at university level. But yes, we would anticipate we could use it at least 5 years.
Okay.
I would actually look at a 6 to 7 year use.
And you're looking at the used, last
Yes,
year's edition?
yes, we're
right?
looking at a previous year's edition to reduce the cost.
Great.
Okay,
Well,
good.
I would move that we adopt the sports medicine textbook as presented.
Second?
I just under further discussion, I want to ask, do the students carry that home
No.
each day?
No.
It's going to stay?
Yeah, we're looking at
Okay.
trying to minimize that, yeah, because it's
Yeah.
rather, I would be a
Leave the
bit
class.
concerned about the back,
Yeah.
yeah, in their backpacks. So,
Okay.
yeah. But we have enough so that students can be issued
If they
a
needed to
textbook
take
if they
it home
needed
to
to
catch
take it
up on
home.
something.
Yes.
They still could.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I truly, as most textbooks are becoming their resource, they're not
Yeah,
the only source.
right.
Yeah.
Okay.
All that material's available online too, isn't it?
Not with these particular
Not with
books,
these?
we're not, no, that was with our world languages adoptions, but
languages.
not with this particular text. They don't
Although
offer
the
that.
information is certainly
Yeah.
Yeah,
available.
Yeah.
Presented in a different format, but yeah.
Right.
Okay, okay. Is there any other discussion? Okay. Then, it's been moved and seconded that we do approve the sports medicine textbook adoption. So all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No one is opposed, so that textbook is adopted. And Roberta, you know you're going to stay up there next and discuss the LMS and PHS course offerings.
so for the next school year, you notice that particularly at Pullman High School, we have quite a few new courses that we are going to be offering. We are not removing any at this point. We will not offer the 3D animation course at Pullman High School next year. As you remember, that's an accompanying course to the advanced video production. At the middle school, there were no changes from the previous year.
All right, does anyone have any questions about
Well, I just wanted to comment, since we're talking about advanced video production, the video at graduation, I didn't say it in my blurb, was spectacular. It's just amazing what those kids can do. Under Doug Winchell's leadership, it's amazing what he can get them to do, and I was so impressed, because I've seen it grow over the years, and it's really professional, almost a professional level now. But that's just my little comment about
So next year it should be
even
in theory,
better,
even
because
better.
we've got advanced
Yes.
video production.
Okay, any
I,
other questions or?
I move approval of the LMS PHS course offerings for 2017-18.
I will second.
Okay, it has been moved and seconded that we approve the LMS and PHS course offerings for 2017-2018. If there is no further discussion, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No one is opposed. This also passes. Next, Assistant Superintendent Kramer, please tell us about Bridge to College English adoption.
If you remember from our last meeting, Danielle, I just lost.
DeMartin.
I just lost her last name. Danielle shared with you her experience with Bridge to College, was very enthusiastic and excited about it. And I don't think that any of that enthusiasm has been diminished at all, because that really was key for some of our kids who graduated. And so I asked that the course that we presented at the last board meeting be approved for us to offer next school year. We'll have the opportunity for Danielle to continue with the cohort of colleagues that she has worked with this last school year, which is a great opportunity. So we still have some grant funds from OSPI to continue this course.
Yeah, it's really neat. Are there any questions for Roberta?
I move that we approve the Bridge to College English 12 class.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we do approve this course, Bridge to College English 12. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
And anyone opposed? No one is opposed, so that course offering is also approved.
RFP?
Is under discussion items, right?
Yep, right
Okay,
here, A,
yeah.
RFP preschool services.
Yeah, it's just my discussion items was kind of, so
Oh,
I couldn't, it was
sorry
a
about
little
that.
unclear, yeah. Okay, all right, so we are moving on to our discussion items, and gosh, Roberta, you have really hit the jackpot tonight.
No reason to sit down quite yet.
And good luck explaining all this. too.
Okay, so as, at our work session, Megan talked with you about the process of making requests for proposals for our birth through 2 and our 3 through 5 services for our children with special education needs. And so that's what this speaks to. We will bring this, we will bring our recommended action to you in 2 weeks. This information is to tell you that that is coming. We take a look, we will notify those that have applied and submitted proposals to us. We will notify them tomorrow. We have one proposal for birth through 2 and one proposal for our preschool services. So we will notify both of them tomorrow, and then we will begin the contract negotiation process, which I haven't been a part of before, so I look forward to learning from Bob in that process.
So is this how it is usually for someone who knows in an agenda, like you just are notified this is happening, and then?
In this
Okay.
particular case, because we have to go out for an RFP to make sure everybody has an opportunity to apply to provide services, the board must approve any of the basically contractors that are selected to provide those services. This gives you, and since this is more of a evaluation process, that's why I wanted to bring it for work study session, also to bring it to the board for information, but you will have to take action on the RFPs. You did this 3 years ago when I first
Yeah.
came to the district.
I just don't remember it being sort of this,
Formal process.
like a blank slate, there's nothing, I mean, this is a cover sheet, basically.
Yes.
that
And-
says-
And the reason is that I'm hesitant to say who, I mean, we've
they're
only
notified.
received 2,
Yeah.
but
Till they're
until we
notified.
notify them,
Yeah,
I'm hesitant to say who they are
right,
at this point.
yeah.
You remember last year, last time we had a bunch of people come up and talk about
I do.
all the
What
3
the
years
service
ago.
meant to
Yeah.
them and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, it was actually, the public was
Because
very
that was-
engaged in that process.
That was the first time we had to do it, so, yeah.
Yeah, I think that well, part of the challenge is that there are few providers, but we're fortunate in this community that the providers that are interested are those that we've worked with in the past and are good at what they do. And so that piece makes us confident. I also think part of the challenge in this is right now it's in flux with the State Department of Early Learning, and until they shift the whole thing, and it was supposed to be in a year, and now they say it's possibly going to be in 2 years before the new regulations are in place. So it's not a real attractive process for perhaps other agencies. But yeah, it is rather non-descriptive, and I apologize for that, but at the same time, I didn't feel like I could put that in there with it prior to us notifying them.
Okay, thank you. Our next discussion item is Resolution 161710, and to present that, we have Superintendent Maxwell.
Thank you. I appreciate the time. Several things. I'm bringing a resolution 161710 for the board in a proactive manner. Historically, administrator salary increases have in part reflected state-funded COLAs that are provided to other school employees. With the prospect of changing or even eliminating the current salary allocation models, which is several of the proposals to the state legislature would eliminate those. Data needed to calculate a fair adjustment to administrator salaries may be delayed for months. And according to RCW 28A 400-315, effectively establishes a deadline of July 1st for setting administrators' compensation. Washington Association of School Administrators, WASA, enlisted legal recommendations for the following board resolution intended to extend the time for final compensation decisions until a legislative solution for school funding is reached. You may ask, why are we bringing this for administrators and not other groups? Other groups automatically have in their collective bargaining agreements and by state statute get the COLAs no matter when the budget is decided. So if the budget was decided after July 1, teachers and classified would still get those COLAs. Administrators are a different group. They're not represented by a association. And so this is purely a preventative measure to make sure that we would continue to extend COLAs to administrators in our district if the state does indeed provide a COLA. Some years the state does not provide a COLA, i.e. several years in a row, 7 to be exact. We're anticipating from what we hear that there will be some type of COLA. But in the interest of our building administrators and exempt, I think that would be, if a COLA did come and they were not able to get a COLA, I don't think that would be very fair to our employees. So that is what this resolution is about. And why it only reflects administrators, because like I said, the other groups receive their COLAs if a budget's decided before or after July 1, but administrators technically, because of this RCW, not be eligible for that COLA. So it's for your consideration.
Okay, so who wrote the resolution?
This was legal attorneys from WASA, and I'll pull that up in just
And
a
has
second.
our attorney reviewed it?
Our attorney has not reviewed it, but I can definitely have our attorney review that. I'm not sure why. Oh. Sorry about that. I think I went. It's a pretty basic resolution.
Except in number 2, which I have a question on. Adjustments to salary schedule. It says you could, after we get all the information that we were supposed to have prior to this,
Correct.
and we won't get, it says that we can make adjustments to either the existing salary schedule or other forms, but it says, in no event shall salaries or other compensation be reduced at the time of such adjustments. So the only adjustment we can make is to increase salaries then? We can't tell them, well,
You can't-
we're not getting funded, so we have
You
to.
can't decrease their salary, but you could leave it the same, or you could increase it.
Because it has been decreased before.
It has when the state had a 1.9%
Right.
reduction.
But
yes.
this, I mean,
No,
if
that's a great
if
question.
other groups get their salary reduced, shouldn't the administrators also get
Oh,
their
absolutely.
salary reduced?
Well,
Absolutely.
we can't with this.
According to this, we can't.
Well, I can reword it, so
Okay.
I'm happy to do that.
Well, I'm just, it was just like, oh yeah, we can adjust it. I mean, everybody always says that. Yeah, we can adjust it, just give me more. But
Sure.
we have to deal with the reality of whatever these yahoos in Olympia come up with.
And I seriously doubt they'll reduce, but I can definitely
Well,
change that language.
No, I know that too, but you never know. It just seemed funny to be worded this way.
Yeah, and I think the intention was that, and remember, this was written for all Eastern Washington districts, so, and a lot of them would say, and some of them might have different agreements, because some of them do have associations that may say, you're not going to cut my salary, you're going to leave it at whatever it is, no matter what. So, but I am happy to adjust this.
Well, I don't know what, it just seemed kind of funny, is all.
No, that's a good point.
Are there any additional comments or questions?
Well, I'm kind of interested why it seemed funny,
Strange.
funny strange.
Well, because we don't know what's going to come out of Olympia. I mean, every time you turn around, somebody has another great idea. And it just seems to me that this totally eliminates the possibility, if there is a decrease or if they change the funding so that it's not a salary, it's something else, we can't do anything about it other than give them more money.
Or give them nothing.
Yeah, or
keep Yeah.
it the same.
Keep it the
Or
same.
keep it the same.
The last time there was a reduction, Joe brought to my attention that, and he's right, that the last time the admins, when the state did give a salary reduction, the administrators voluntarily took,
They did.
but no other classification got that reduction
Right.
because we didn't want to decrease the pay.
We covered it. No, oh, I
Yeah.
know. And,
Yeah.
and we're lucky to, it's nothing against our administrators at all. I was just saying that this locks us into something that potentially may not work is all.
Right.
Daughter of an attorney, I just, you gotta
Oh.
look at all sides of
Because
this.
the purpose of the resolution is to make sure that the administrators get compensation if the budget does not pass
It-
on a time. in a
Purely
timely
what
manner.
this says is that if there
That
is
was the purpose of the resolution, so.
if there is a COLA, administrators will get the COLA. That's all this is saying. And I can adjust the language any way you feel.
Oh, no, you don't need to adjust it. I just wanted to point it out because I think it was
No, I think we should adjust
Well,
that
differently.
clarify
I,
it.
Yeah.
I think that's fine. I have
Yeah.
no problem, like I
because to
said.
say in no event makes it sound like
no matter what.
no
yeah.
matter what.
We're
Yeah.
dishing it out. And I think our administrators actually deserve more than what they are getting now. So it's nothing against anybody in administrative level. I
No,
mean,
and
how
that's why
hard
we-
they have to work because we don't have many for the size of our district.
No, we don't. And, yeah, I'll leave it at that. so.
I agree with that, totally. We
But
don't.
I'll be happy to add a clarification in here.
Okay.
But the intention is really just for the COLA, that's what it says.
Right.
And
Okay.
and we may not even need this if they actually settle the budget, then it's not before July 1. Trying to be positive.
Oh, you joker, yeah.
But if so, I felt that it was important to have something in there for the building administrators.
Right.
Because if they did come through with a COLA and everybody else gets a COLA and,
Yeah.
you know, they don't get a
Absolutely.
COLA, then I think that would,
Okay.
so.
Director Kinzer, you haven't said much. Do you have any comments about this?
No, I'm
Okay.
I'm confident that there's going to be an increase in the allocations from the state this year, so I don't think it'd be an issue to start with, but also, I also feel that it's the right action to take so that we get our administrators a COLA also if the state comes through, so.
Okay, good. All right, well, we will look forward to revisiting that in 2 weeks. Next, we're looking at some proposed changes to policy 2145 suicide prevention. And for that, we have, again, Superintendent Maxwell.
Thank you very much. So I finally had some time to get to a host of policies and procedures, so I'll ask for your patience tonight. One of the ones that we're updating is the suicide prevention. This is based off the WAS's recommendation. And basically, it makes some changes to specific language. It also provides some bullet points as to what the district will provide, mainly in the arena of training. We do provide suicide training in our Safe Schools module every year for staff. All staff members take that training. We're also working with the school counselors as well as our school psychologists regarding some additional training and procedures to make sure that we are compliant. And a lot of these guidelines we've been doing, but this has now become more formalized. Procedure communications for parents as an example. Describe how the district will provide support to students and staff after an incident. We do have our crisis intervention team, which we actually did activate this year. Was not for suicide, but in the passing of Aaron Krantz, that team did go over to LMS and provide support for staff and students as needed. And so that's an example of something similar that would happen if, unfortunately, a situation did occur with a suicide. So I won't read it all because it's quite bulleted out, but I think it's in a nice format.
Is the policy consistent with current practice?
This is.
Does this add quite a bit change to the procedures, or is that?
We are revamping our procedures as well. You'll know, a lot of it is we have to identify training, describe how staff train, are going to conduct screening, what's the next process. We have those things. This is really come to the forefront, and so they've made some significant changes. I'm pretty comfortable with them because we do all these things, but it's good practice to go through and make sure, does our system align with our policy and make sure our procedures align with our policy. So this will be something I know Roberta's been meeting with, and Megan have been meeting with the school psychologists and counselors as well.
I know this is a very timely topic. Should it be moved to an action item?
It doesn't have to be. We're not in a hurry, so we have time.
Yeah, and I'm confident that we're implementing what's in this, so I don't see the need to have to take action.
Okay, don't shoot me. I have a question on the last two little dotty things.
Sure.
Why are they, do we have another, we have the state safety one as well, that would include these two things? These two requirements under a safety rather than under suicide prevention?
So describe how the school district will provide certificated classified staff training?
Yeah. No, how staff should respond when allegations of sexual conduct or abuse are made against a staff member, volunteer, parent, guardian, or family member, and then describe how the district will provide training. So on physical abuse, to report physical abuse and sexual misconduct.
Yes.
So is that also another policy as well?
That's in another policy. That's also in another safe school modules training that
Okay,
every
good.
school employee takes every
Okay.
year.
Well, I could see where it would
Yeah.
work on here, but I think it also needs to be, I didn't want it to be
Also,
in place.
it's also in another policy and
Okay, good.
procedure. And you have to remember, sometimes these will overlap, and if you go back to the bottom, you'll see some cross
Oh,
references.
there's the policy reference, okay.
Right, so,
Harassment.
yep.
Okay,
So always at the bottom here, they'll always cross-reference with the other policies, so.
but do we have a safe schools kind of
We don't-
policy?
We don't have a specific safe schools. That's the training, title of our training modules, which there's a whole collection of.
Because this is transgender guidance and prohibition of harassment, intimidation, and bullying.
And we have a policy on that as well.
Okay. Okay. I was just,
No, good questions.
fine.
And is our community organization that we partner with for services, is it Palouse River Counseling?
PRC. Any other questions on that one?
All right. Hearing none, let's move on to policy 4210, regulation of dangerous weapons on school premises.
So policy 4210 has been revised to align with WASDA sample policy, and this was updated July 2016. So you can see we're getting closer to getting caught up on ours. Really, so the major changes in this one that I'll show you in a second is definition of dangerous weapons is added. Reporting dangerous weapons is also added, and some minor reorganizations of the section headings is included. So the two main things that you're going to see are different in this revised one is spelling out exactly what is a dangerous weapon and reporting those dangerous weapons, which we have an annual report we must submit to OSPI. Every district in the state is required to do that. And let me get to,
I don't think I've ever seen that annual report.
ours is, we're pretty lucky. We don't have a whole, I could show you some other districts though that are not as lucky, so
Do they have a whole display of,
it's not good.
what is a slung shot?
I had to look that up actually in because I thought it was a misspelling for slingshot, but
But
you'll
no,
notice,
It's the object being slown.
actually it is, there's shot that
Yeah.
you put into a
Yeah.
slingshot. Interesting, because
But
slingshot's
it says
below,
slingshot's right there.
but
Well, there's
above
a-
it's sling.
The slingshot is the tool.
Yeah,
And
Like
it's-
the gun, the bullet is the thing that goes out of the
if
gun.
you look after it, it says shot, sandbag, or
Yeah.
Sand
whatever,
club.
Sand club, so, like some of the police use, they shoot those sandbags now, projectiles, so they,
Oh.
they don't penetrate the skin, but they'll give you a nice raspberry rash, so.
Yes.
So this really lists out all kinds of what they consider to meet the definition of a dangerous weapon, of course, any firearm, obviously. Air gun is on there. Dirk, dagger, knife, the blade length.
no brass knuckles.
Yeah, they were on there.
Yeah, they're on there.
No, that's what I mean. We can't even have those.
Nope,
No.
Or what are those knives that you push the button?
They're on the list.
butterfly
Yeah,
knife.
you're not-
I don't
switchblade,
remember what they're called. They have those,
Switchblade.
yeah, switchblades.
No,
I tell you,
Any
the
knife,
restrictions
razor.
are never ending.
and this is the catch-all, anything not listed above, so.
Yes.
The most dangerous.
Are we allowed to use a little common sense? Because I've heard of incidents where
Oh.
kids bring a plastic
Scary.
butter knife in their lunch to put something on a sandwich and
That's
they...
called a zero tolerance policy.
No, we don't go to that. No.
Those are ridiculous.
In fact, we've had students that have come to the office in the morning and said, I just got done helping my dad out and noticed I had brought my knife to school, turned it into the office, we hold it, turn it back over to the parent.
Okay,
If they self-report, that's what we want them to do.
all right.
So, so anyway, again, just some heading titles. So there's some exceptions. Of course, law enforcement, they're allowed to carry weapons into a school. And it gives, this one was interesting, personal protection spray. So if you're 18 years of age or older, so.
Carry your pepper spray.
But you have conditions to that, so that's probably the only, and actually, it's not new language, it's been in there, but I just put in a title because sometimes we might need to find it quickly, especially if somebody, and we have not had any incidents with that so far, so.
So far being the operative word there.
I'm not gonna say never, so. Any questions on regulation of dangerous weapons on school premises?
All right. In that case, let's move on to 42.
Again, I'm raising this question in light of the timeliness of this topic. Should we move it to an act? I'm compelled to ask this question because...
There's no need to.
No need
It's
to.
not
All right.
I don't anticipate anything else in the next 2 days of school with weapons, so, and we already have an
boy.
existing policy, so.
Mark is word.
Okay, 4215, use of tobacco and nicotine products and delivery devices.
Yes, again, this one we just did, I think last year, if I recall correctly, but this is updated to include clarification language recommended by WASDA. And I believe it had to do with electronic cigarettes, but let's see if I'm right.
That was what we did last year.
Yeah.
And of course, somebody found a loophole. So, you can see the changes in red. It's including all district buildings, grounds, district-owned vehicles within 500 feet of schools. Possession by distributors of tobacco products is permitted, so, prohibited, excuse me. So I was wrong on that one, so. Again, I think the main change was in compliance with state law, you have to be so many feet from the entrance of a building. I think it's 25 feet of a bar or something like that, but for schools, it's within 500 feet. And we have had an issue with people smoking outside the stadium. And so we kindly refer them to this. So,
Okay.
because that is within 500 feet of the school.
It's at the school, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I had a debate
Oh, okay.
whether it was the building itself or
Oh,
the
no.
property.
The property is the school.
So-
Yeah.
And I had to point out, it says grounds right there, so.
Yeah. Okay.
Anyway, pretty minor,
Yeah.
minor change.
So next we have 5001.
Yep.
Hiring of retired school employees.
And as you know, we've had a real shortage of substitute teachers. And so one of the things that in my research was taking a look at our availability to hire retired teachers as substitutes. So this is one of the steps that we're taking to help address the substitute shortage. So we needed to update this to align with WASDA. In paragraph 2, it defines the legal conditions for hiring a retired employee, in particular retired teachers, under Washington's TRS plan. That's a retirement plan. You can either be 1, 2, or 3. Most people who are 1s are no longer in teaching now, but mainly 2 and 3. And then it's going to change in August of 2020. So I wanted to at least try to get this updated, so it might be able to help us the upcoming school year. So I will go to that so you can see it. And we've had this as a, again, as a policy, but again, I needed to update it with the current legal language to make sure that employees were aware of the number of hours that they're limited to. Additionally, if we do hire retired teachers, we have to pay teachers at a rate that is at least 85% of the full daily amount allocated by the state to the districts for substitute teacher compensation. And we do meet that requirement.
What happens in August of 2020?
Oh, they'll come up with something else. They'll
Oh,
either
this is-
say,
They don't, no, they don't have a plan, they're just saying this will work until then?
right, they'll either say, no, you can't do it at all, or they'll maybe allow us to continue, or they may up the hours. This was hotly contested in the state legislature,
Oh, yeah.
even last year, about why are we hiring retired people and limited the number of hours, and but you know, we've been short. I can't even tell you how many days. It's, you know, it's, but this would be one of the things that we could do to maybe help incentivize if there was a retired teacher that would like to sub. And we have it spelled out in our policy, the number of hours, and again, we make. And then our district responsibilities are laid out there. And of course, we have to report the number of hours to DRS.
Can I point out on this too, it's only for those, the additional is for only those that retired under the early retirement plan. So if they take early retirement, this is what's going to apply to them. If someone is retirement eligible, then they have a separate set of hours that they get to work and are allowed to work. So I just wanted to point that out.
Okay, so this isn't for everybody. Somebody put in their full years of work and they want to,
Then there's a different set of number of
of course
hours.
there is, yes.
And that's why we're trying to keep up with these things, but they change every time the state legislature meets. It's, so, yeah, this one has been changing every year, and so and I will probably be bringing it back after this legislative session, I'm sure. But again, this is for anybody that took it early out, then this would be, they actually, I believe, get to work additional hours. Yeah.
Well, if and when the reduced class sizes gets implemented, we're going to be, what, 4,500 teachers short in the state of Washington at that
Oh,
point?
at least, yeah.
And so I'm guessing now most of this will go away.
I'm thinking most of it will. Although there's still some that don't think there's a teacher shortage, so.
Great.
So, I will be bringing another host of policies and procedures as planning to try to work through a large database of updates, so.
Since you mentioned that, can I ask some questions about upcoming policies?
Yes, you
Okay. So, to my knowledge, we're holding off on printing student handbooks.
We are.
Until we can approve content of said handbooks.
Yes,
And-
WASDA said in April they'd have the language
Okay.
out. As of last week when I checked, they still did not have the language. I think they're waiting for the state legislature to end before, because there may be some changes again. That's my thought, but I'll find out. But if not, what I told the schools to do is go ahead with put your handbooks together. We may have to do discipline as an addendum for next year.
Okay. Yeah, because I was thinking a lot of that stuff would not be sourced locally, like those big
No.
ones with the agendas and everything. You got to get your order in months
Yeah,
in
and they're all,
advance, so-
principals are already calling me saying, hey, we usually send this to the printers, and I've been telling
Okay.
them, hold off, and,
Okay.
but worst case scenario, we'll have to do a separate addendum for discipline for next year for our handbooks. But they still have not settled on it, on
Okay.
the required language, so. But actually, summer conference, maybe they might have something, so I'll
Okay.
find out.
Okay.
But that's a great question.
All right. We've finished our discussion items. There are a couple of informational items that you can look at. But we next will recess into, if there are no objections, the board will recess into an executive or closed session now for the purpose of discussing negotiations and property. And how long will that
I'll say 15 minutes.
Okay, so we'll be conducting a 15-minute executive or closed session, and at the end of that, the meeting will be adjourned and no action will be taken.